Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Rebecca Lee, and I am the coordinator for online services here at ACCESS Employment. And here with me, I also have Akanksha Malik here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Akanksha.
Oh, same here, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And our talk today is about women in leadership climbing the corporate ladder in the Canadian workplace. So today, I do have our special guest, Akanksha Malik, and she will be speaking in just a little bit. And for those of you that are joining us for the very first time, this webinar is part of our September event series. So this is the second last event of this month. And we will be sharing a little bit more about how you can tune into our other webinars that are coming up next month as well. So please stay tuned. And just a little bit about ACCESS Employment just before we get started. So we have been around for over 30 years, and we have programs and services for job seekers as well as new Canadians. So we have 5 sites across the Greater Toronto area. We've established relationships with over 2,000 plus employers, including Rogers Communications. And we also deliver a variety of sector-specific programs, communications training, and mentoring programs for our clients as well. Most recently, we just started delivering online services for pre-arrival job seekers, as well as job seekers located across Canada. So those of you that are joining us for the very first time, again, warm welcome, and we will get right into our featured presentation very soon. So just a little bit about myself. So my name is Rebecca Lee, as I mentioned, and I am the coordinator for online services here at ACCESS Employment. So my role is mainly to create virtual networking events to connect job seekers nationally and around the world with reputable employers, as well as newcomer professionals and successful women like Akanksha. And we also worked as a job developer as well, helping 200 plus internationally trained finance and banking professionals to relaunch their careers in the Toronto region. I've also worked in talent acquisition, business development, as well as marketing in the telecommunications sector, as well as executive search, as well as consulting as well. And in my free time, I do love to travel a lot to meet new people from different cultures and also try new foods as well. So that's a little bit about me. And just over to Akanksha.
Thank you. You're an interesting person. Food, eh? I would have never figured. But so, hello everyone. My name is Akanksha, and I had a nice royal welcome from Rebecca. So thank you, Rebecca, and thanks for having me here. So a little bit about myself. I was born in New Delhi, India, and I moved to UK from there around about 2003. So it's been quite a few years. And then I lived in UK for about 7 years, and then moved to Canada. And now I'm a Canadian citizen, very proud Canadian citizen, love living here, love the multicultural country and every culture that it embraces. In terms of my professional qualifications and where I am in my career, I'm a director of global innovation and partnerships with Rogers Communications. And I've done quite a few roles here. I'll go a bit into my background and professional background later on. But in terms of qualifications, I'm MBA in International Management, which I did from the University of Strathclyde in Scotland. And yes, that's where I lived for close to 6 years. I'm also a certified human resource leader. It says professional on my slide, but after you stay a professional for a certain number of years, then they progress you and you become a CHRL. And also I have a diploma in HRM from Canada. So in terms of a little bit more about me, so my passion and my interest, I love enjoying everything that surrounds me, whether it's time spent with friends, family, and the community. So I do a lot of community work where I actually volunteer with ACCESS Employment, and I get to work with really cool people like Rebecca, who exposed me to all the wonderful opportunities that I get to do, such as I do the speed mentoring program, a couple of other just speaker events that Rebecca and others in ACCESS Employment do a fantabulous job in organizing. Also do volunteer work at TRIAC, which is Toronto Regional Immigrant Employment Council, and I provide one-on-one coaching, counseling, and mentorship to really experienced folks who come from different parts of the world. I'm also an executive member of the Rogers Women Network. So here at Rogers, I stand by the women, diversity, and support all the women who want to progress in their career and take up bigger, better, stronger roles. Also, in terms of passion, I'm passionate about traveling. I'm always traveling. I never do staycations because I just, either I'm working or I'm traveling. So this year I'll be going to Brazil and Peru and doing Machu Picchu Inca Trail. So pretty excited about that.
Great.
Yeah, and I love networking. So I speak to people around the world, and like for likes of people who are on the webinar today, hopefully we'll connect more. I love learning about different cultures, just like how Rebecca is, and also promoting diversity and equal opportunity.
Thank you, Akanksha.
So that's a bit about me. Thank you.
So we're actually going to do something a little different today, and we're going to be doing a one-on-one chat with Akanksha. And what we're going to do today is I do have a number of different questions to ask her, and just for your reference, we will have those questions up for you as well, just for reference. And we have different themes as well, so please do stay tuned. So our first theme, that's part one, is my career path. So basically your career path, Akanksha. So right. My first question for you is, what was your experience before coming to Rogers? And can you tell us a little bit more about your career path?
Of course, absolutely. First of all, honored to be on this hot seat and asking and being asked questions from a wonderful person like yourself. So yes, thank you. My career, so interesting fact, 8 years in Canada, and I'm on my 8th role. And all voluntarily, every opportunity that comes my way, I grab it with both hands. So most people laugh that I've done 8 roles already. Basically started as an HR specialist in Loblaws when I moved from UK. And then I did, so on my chart it shows 1, but actually I did 2 specialist roles within Loblaws. One was the HR specialist supporting HR planning team, and then I moved on to support HR team, which is HR for HR. So 2 HR specialist roles, and then I moved on to take a new position, which was a senior HR specialist at Husky. And this was more on, I was doing a lot of reporting and compliance and small projects. And that opened up. So one thing I always did was any special projects that came up, I was the first one to put my hand up and say, I want to learn, I want to participate, I want to contribute. And that opened the doors when there was an official position there for a PMO and a manager role. I got that role within Husky. So I was a manager of a project management office as well as reporting. So any mergers and acquisitions, any new special projects, any non-disclosure agreements, I was involved in those really key projects. From there on, I became, again, within Husky, I took a manager role in shared services. And then soon enough, really golden opportunity at Rogers showed up. And any opportunity that knocks my door, I always open it, always evaluate it, and always try it. So that made me try so I took the senior manager role in HR sort of metric, measurement, and analysis and compliance. I did that for a year, and I was just tapped on my shoulder, nudged to try something else, which was organizational development. So then I took a lateral move and moved to a senior manager role in org development within Rogers. I did that for a year, and I was looking for advancement. I've done quite a few roles within HR. I mean, my background is HR. I've always been in human resources. So this time I wanted to really try something new and not plateau. And there was a director role within the corporate strategy team. So I went for it, gave interviews, and I got selected. And I got the new role, which is Director of Innovation and Partnerships that I'm doing currently. But I've been in this role since January this year.
That's amazing, Akanksha, and I just think it's great that you kind of show that career path of yours, because I find that every person's career path is so different, and even you taking on these 8 roles, it seems like they were all very strategically taken, and it wasn't something that just came about randomly.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It was very strategically planned. I knew I wanted to progress in my career, and I always tell people, if you really plan it out, and you make the right moves and you take the right risks and the right opportunities, things always work out. You just have to be very strategic about it.
Thank you so much for that. And just going on to that particular conversation, so since the role that you currently started in Rogers in your director position, can you tell us a little bit more about that role itself? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, of course. So my current role, I mean, I'm 8 months in this role, but I love it. It's very exciting, very challenging. I'm actually testing all possible data points on change management. So for folks who know, change management is not easy, and I'm like in a new territory, absolutely working with different new people because I've always done human resources. It's different role. Whatever I knew, who I knew is all changed. So I've changed every dimension of my role and my career at this point. So what I do, the team Global Innovations and Partnership, what we do is it goes hunts for innovation around the world and brings it home. So we basically think locally, think globally and act local. So we go in different parts of the world, whether it's Asia, it's US, it's Europe, and hunt for innovation that's going to come to Canada in 3 to 5 years. And bring really cool opportunities that we should be in Canada looking in technology world. And what I do within the team is I manage the governance of those relationships that exist between Rogers and the all the technology companies that exist in the world. So if we're working with companies like Google, Amazon, Intel, Facebook, all the big companies, Microsoft, the Samsung, Huawei, all the companies, technology companies you think of, we build relationships with them, and I manage the governance model of those relationships, quarterly business reviews, how do we hold them accountable, how do we work well with great relationships with them. So my day-to-day, every day is pretty different, and it's a new challenge every day, but it's exciting as hell.
That's amazing. And so from what you're telling me, it's actually a little bit more different from what you've done before, like a traditional HR role.
Oh, absolutely, night and day. So there's not one thing that's common other than what I say is your relationship building skills never die. They are transferable skills that you shift from one job to the other. So me being able to build the relationships, communicate with people, build that honesty and trust and integrity is the common baseline. It's a common base that transfers from one job to the other. But in terms of my technical skills, in terms of my knowledge base, there's nothing similar to what I was doing before.
Yeah, and I think it's really great that you're mentioning that, because just because someone starts in one kind of career doesn't mean that they're stuck and only doing that for the next 10 to 20 years. And it's great to see how you're kind of evolving yourself as well. Absolutely. That's a good point. You're always evolving. And if you don't evolve, the world evolves around you and you feel you're stagnant. You haven't moved on with the times. So I think it's really important you take charge of your career and don't be so fixated. Don't be so rigid with your career that I'm an HR professional who has to become an HR director and an HR VP, and now all the other doors are closed. Because there's so many career paths out there that we don't even look at because we're so linear in our approach and only thinking one way. But it's so many different. I mean, my career shows you from reporting to HR specialist to generalist to sort of HR planning, and then now to corporate strategy. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kangsha. You're welcome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about overcoming challenges. So that's part 2 of our chat here. So obviously, in getting to where you are today, there are definitely challenges and milestones and roadblocks that you had to overcome. So are you able to kind of share what some of the challenges you had faced so far and get to where you are today, and maybe some strategies and how you overcame it, and also give our audience some advice as well? Absolutely. But by the way, that's a really, really good question. And I say this because anyone, and I'm a really transparent and a really honest person, so you'll hear me say things as is and being very upfront and blunt about things. Any woman on the line here or in general with me would say, facing everyday challenges at work for a woman, and that to a woman of color with diverse background, it's not easy. There's lots of challenges, and the biggest one I would say are the unconscious biases. So now people would say, what are unconscious biases?
Well, unconscious bias is an inclination or a prejudice that exists against a person or a group, and people don't even know about it. So things like, a lot of people say, oh, in order to be a really successful person or a CEO, you've got to be really tall. Because you know what? The fact is, 60% of CEOs in the world are actually above 6 feet. So that's one of the bias. And I always laugh. So really, there's no senior positions for really short people in general. I'm just making a joke here, but or graduates from big universities like Harvard and Stanford, and like, you need to be from those companies, and those are the ones who actually become really good employees. Again, a bias, not necessarily true. You could be from any university, is how you apply your skills is what makes you successful. Again, a preference of extroverts over introverts. So a lot of people who are like me, loud and not shy of expressing themselves, usually stand out in a meeting. But then there are people who are really shy, hold on to their feelings, but they're thinking, they're processing. Not that they're not smart, they're really smart people. They're just taking time to gather their thoughts and express. They are introverts, and they're seen as maybe they're not as smart. But it's not true. These are just the biases that exist every single day in the workplace or outside of workplace. Also, another, when I said being a woman, is not that easy in a workplace. I mean, times are changing, so I consider myself really lucky, because if I was born years ago, probably those prejudices and biases were a lot more. And most people say, as women, you have to prove yourself twice as hard. As women, you have to work twice as hard to be shining. And I think that's another bias that exists out there. And I mean, some of it is true. All Pan-Asians have to just, their prejudice in the sense their accents, their difference in speech, the way they're expressing themselves, their dialogue, their body language, all of that can be seen as a big challenge too. Or being an immigrant. Like, I've been an immigrant twice now. First moved to UK, had to start everything from scratch, and again moving to Canada and starting everything from scratch. It's not easy. You have to build your connections again. You have to prove yourself again to people, build that credibility, show them what you've got. Almost whatever you did in the past is wiped out, and you're starting from fresh again. So constantly having to fight that uphill battle is a challenge that most immigrants and most women would face in the workplace. So those are some of the ones that I would say. And now, to answer your question on how do you overcome it? Well, in order to overcome, I think the biggest one, and you'll hear me say this, repeat myself many times during the webinar today, is be authentic. Just be so yourself. Be honest to yourself. In order to prove to the world, you have to first prove it to yourself. And I say, if you're confident, you stay strong, you believe in yourself, you'll be able to prove to the world that what you've got. I always believe in actions, and also as leaders, it's a known saying. If you're a leader, people look at your feet more than they look at your mouth. So what I mean by that is they want to follow your steps. They want to see how you walk, not how you talk. They want to see your actions. It's actions speak louder than words. So as a woman leader, how I overcame that challenge was by proving to my juniors, my employees, my staff, or my coworkers that I'm capable. And you know what? My work shows that. My own efforts, my own attitude shows that. And nothing is impossible. Everyone wants to give the other people a fair chance. It's just that you should have the confidence to take those chances and show them what you've got. The other thing I'd say is by building like really effective, impactful teams. So I manage team sizes of 10 to 12, 15 people. I've always been a good leader and shown by leading by example. And that goes a long way, because people buy into people. People don't buy into things. People are not joining Rogers just because it's Rogers. People are reporting to me and following me because they believe in me. And those are some of the things that I always live by and embrace. And I tell people that if you've got what it takes, then no one can stop you.
Thank you so much, Akanksha, for that. And that is so inspiring. And I know that a number of our webinar subscribers have mentioned that they're shy. And I think it's just really encouraging to hear that. That's something that's very common, that people may feel And it's okay to ask for things, and it's okay to just keep persisting, because just because you're shy doesn't mean that you will not become a leader.
Exactly. You just have to know when to ask for support. And the other thing, you actually raised a good point, Rebecca. Most people think if I'm going to ask for help, means that shows my weakness. Actually shows your strength, because it takes a lot of courage to ask for support. And so asking for support, seeking help, working along with people to be successful is not a bad thing. Being shy and not being able to express yourself at the moment and being loud and clear, it's not a negative. You just have to overcome your own biases and stop being so hard on yourself, because the world would see your talent as long as you have the right mechanism, right skill set, right will to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to go into our section of part 3, which is personal branding. And I know Akanksha is very passionate about this topic, so let's just get started on that. So my first question is, what makes you special, or we can say, what is your competitive advantage? And how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you differentiate your brand?
Perfect. Yes, so Rebecca said personal brand is really near and dear to my heart. And I say because a lot of people just, they don't see the importance of it, or they don't know how important a personal brand can be. And what I mean by a personal brand is, think of anything, say coffee. When you talk about coffee, you think about Starbucks, you talk about Timothy's, you talk about Tim Hortons. That's a brand. And you right away, you think about that brand. What I say is, when as a person, as a leader, as an effective worker, you need to create your own brand. And what your own brand is like, I'll give you an example. My personal brand, I say a AAA battery. So I have the right attitude, which is 1A. I'm authentic, which is a second A. And the third is that I'm aware, and that's the third A. So what I mean by this is, I'm aware of what's happening. I'm aware of myself. I know what my weaknesses are. I know what my strengths are. I leverage my strengths to climb up. I make sure I work on my opportunities to fix them. Any gaps that I have in my own behavior, in my own skills, I work on them on a daily basis. But I'm also authentic. I'm honest. I'll say to people what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I'm not shy of saying I need help. I am who I am. I do my best. I do more than my best, but I'm also transparent, and I tell people who I am. And I carry the right attitude. I'm there to help. I'm there to support. I'm collaborative. I have the right energy levels. I am a go-getter. I want to perform, and I make sure that that attitude reflects.
Thank you for that. And I just find that sometimes it's hard for us to become self-aware, especially when we're so busy with day-to-day things. So do you ever ask for feedback, Akanksha, from your team? Or
Yes.
how do you learn more about yourself?
So 2 ways you can learn about yourself. One is by first really spending, we're so busy every day, all day, working through, that we don't even spend time with ourselves. Do we sit down and think, how did my day go today? How did I perform? Did I show up well? Did I do my best? Did I behave well, or did I react to something? Sometimes we snap at people, or we don't have the time to even sit back and think about how did we perform. So one thing I do is a check on myself, which is anytime, like if I'm on the subway heading home from work, or in the morning I spend time, I put my headphones, listen to my music, and then I just think, what do I want to do today? How do I want to show up? How do I behave? How do I, as a person, how do I show my brand? That's one. Secondly, you always have to ask for feedback, because you don't ask, you don't get. And it's one of those common things where you have to say, ask your boss, ask your coworkers, ask your even family members. Like, tell me, give me feedback. How am I doing? Do you think I didn't behave okay? Oh, what do you think? What did I do? If you ask them for feedback, you just have to, and it comes with practice. What happens is a lot of people come to me and they say, I go to my team and ask for feedback, but they don't open up. They're not transparent. They won't tell me what I didn't do well. They'll only tell me what I did well. And what happens is, because by constantly asking them for feedback, they get used to it. They know that you genuinely want feedback, because every 3 months, like for example, my team, people who report to me, every 3 months are used to me asking them, Okay, guys, give me feedback. How did I do in the last quarter? How did I show up as a leader? How was I as a coworker? Did I keep my biases out of the door? Did I do well? And when they're used to getting those questions on a regular basis, they start opening up. They trust that I actually genuinely want that feedback, and I want to use that feedback and improve myself. So it's really important. It's a cleanse process. You clean your internal, but you also clean external by asking for feedback from outside.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And I think that's another trait that you mentioned that you really portray is also just being approachable as well to your team in order to do that. Thank you.
That's true.
So another question is, how do you keep your personal brand top of mind and ensure that it's recognized by the right audience? So in addition to that, like, how do you increase your circle of influence in making sure that the right people notice you?
Yeah, that's a really another good question. It's important you keep it on top of your mind, but first, be the brand you are. Like, you are a walking, talking, living brand yourself. So if your brand is something that is a true reflection of who you are, you never have to pretend. You are living it every day. I am who I am. I'm the authentic self. I have the attitude, but I didn't copy and paste my brand from somewhere. I didn't acquire it. Oh, I like Rebecca's personality. Do you know what? I'm going to be Rebecca's brand. You can't, because you cannot be somebody else's brand. So just sit down, spend a lot of time with yourself to know really what's your brand. What do you want to stand for? What do you want people to know you as? So that's one thing, being the brand yourself. And then the second thing is by ensuring that you're consistent. So you showing is the same behavior. It's not fluctuating. One day I am outgoing and I want feedback. The next day I close my doors and I say, do not tell me anything bad about me because I don't want to hear. So that inconsistency also is in a brand, and you can keep that brand on top of your mind, and people won't recognize it because it's not consistent. The other thing I do is I tie it to my network. So I have a lot of people that I network with, whether it's at work or outside of work, and I make sure that I tell them what my brand is, because again, another thing that most people don't do, they're shy of doing, is talking about themselves. And that's one thing you have to get away from. If you're good and you're doing a good job and you're doing well, make sure you talk about it and tell people how you're doing. And it's something that doesn't come again naturally to a lot of women or people who come from different countries, because it's not flattering for people from other countries to talk about themselves. And I'm giving an example. I'm Indian. I know people say, "Oh, you're full of yourself by talking about you." I'm sure it's the same with Asia. People want others to talk about you, so they're very humble. And I'm not saying don't be humble. Be humble, but also promote your brand, whether it's your social environment, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's by participating in all these things like webinars. A lot of events I've seen ACCESS Employment does, a lot of really cool events. Go there, show yourself, present yourself, be the brand you are, serve on boards, be in the committees, do a lot of social network events. Just practice your brand every day is my tip for being recognized.
Thank you. And I just find that with personal branding, it's just like advertising. So the more that people see this repeated, the more you recognize that they'll recognize that. And I think, Akanksha, that's also been key to a lot of the projects that you've been, asked to help out with. Even the opportunities that have been kind of presented, in your path as well, is because people understand and recognize your personal brand, and they keep you in mind as well for those promotions.
That's so true. That's so true. And another thing that I forgot to mention, and I should say, is the importance of having coaches and mentors. It's so important. Make sure you have sponsors, somebody who supports you, somebody who wants to coach you, guide you. Again, it goes back to my point. Don't be shy of taking the support and the help that's out there. There's so many agencies, so many services, so many people who are out there providing services for free. They're voluntary work. People like myself, I take any opportunity I get to go help people, whether it's career related. So use those help, use those resources, and don't be shy. Like, asking for help isn't a weakness.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. So do you see the role of a personal brand as something that's flexible and that changes over time?
Absolutely. If it doesn't change, means you didn't make the right brand. Because as life goes on and things change in your life, your brand repurposes. What your brand was when you were in the school and university is different from when you have kids, you married, you have a lot of other responsibilities, or life changes that happen. You're evolving. And Rebecca, you mentioned that in my previous, I think, a couple of questions ago, you said brand should evolve. And that's so true, because if it doesn't evolve and you're not evolving, it's stagnant, it's stale. Who wants to just constantly see, back to your advertising point, who wants to see advertisements that were made 10 years ago for 10 years without fail, without every single day the same ad? How can you see it? You won't enjoy it. So same thing with your own personal brand. It evolves as you grow, your brand grows. And you know what? No brand is a brand. That you were a kid and you were a different personality, then life changes happened. You're a different person. Changes like you move to a different country. You have to go through a lot of different complications. Your brand evolves. You're a woman who is now facing a different kind of work environment and dealing with different people. Your situations at home changes. Your kids are growing up. Your kids have left home. Your brand changes. So there's all these things, life events that happen that changes who you are. But the trick is to keep evolving. As you're evolving, keep evolving your brand.
Thanks, Akanksha.
Welcome.
All right, another question on personal branding. So this actually ties into some of the things that we talked about as well, but how do you leverage social media to promote your personal brand?
Well, I am a social media fanatic. I use every social media you can, because why not? We're in this age, in this era of technology, when we have all this available on our fingertips. We don't have to pay to brand ourselves. You have technology gurus sitting there, and things like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. They're all available on our fingertips to basically talk about yourself, create a platform where all people from different countries, different parts of the world, different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds are all there, and you just have to basically show your presence and connect with those guys. You know how many times in a weekday I actually get invites from people who I don't know, and they send me a really nice message, say on LinkedIn, saying, I saw your profile on LinkedIn, looks like a career I would like to pursue in future. I just want some advice as to how did you get the job you got now, and how do I progress? I don't know this person. This person didn't have to pay to get my advice. This person just had to ask for help and just reach out to me. And there's so many people out there who you reach out to. I do that too. I'm following a lot of people that I'm big fans of. I mean, Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook. I'm a huge fan of hers. And I follow her on Twitter. I follow her on Facebook. I want to see what her career looks like. And she inspires me. So I always talk about these things being really important. And connecting to the world, connecting with others in the network is really, really important. The other thing I also say is, as I said before, use your brand. So how you promote yourself is not just through social media, but also through just be the walking, talking brand yourself. You sitting at the meeting table, and you say your brand is being honest and authentic, and you sitting there not presenting that behavior, you're really not promoting your brand. So social media, social platform, out in a party, in an elevator, at a reception of some meeting room, any place you find, just be consistent, be authentic, and be the brand you are, and be conscious you're a brand. And so once you start promoting that, you're not promoting that just in social media, but in the social environment where people are talking, people are connected.
Thank you for that. And I just want to make a note as well, just in terms of tips on making sure your personal brand is good is also making sure that, you know, your feeds are also clean of any, you know, inappropriate things on a social basis as well. So I know that sometimes people participate in different, you know, events and things like that, like in their personal life. So if you are concerned about your personal life getting in the way of your professional brand, it may be even better to have 2 separate accounts. I'm not quite sure what your advice is on that, Akanksha, but I just feel that if someone is very, you know, has a very different personal life than their professional life, it may not be something that they want to have consistent on one social media feed.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Really a good tip. Just know how you want to be perceived and be conscious. Make a conscious effort. And if you think you did not act in a certain way that you should have at a personal event, make sure you use the technology in a smart way that so basically the best way to think about it is if somebody searched your name on Google, on any social media, and do you want anything to show up that you're not? That's not real you. And so you're right, Rebecca, make sure you are a social citizen, you know your rights, you know your responsibilities, and you know what you're accountable for.
Thank you. All right, so this is our final part today. So part 4 is just personal advice just for our audience, and also advice that you've received yourself as well, Akanksha. So going into that, my question for you is, what is the one piece of advice you wish you had heard at an earlier stage of your career?
That's a really cool question. I would say be who you are. I was told sometimes you need to try less. Do less and still be impactful. Sometimes what happens is, and it's a natural, and a lot of people on the phone or this webinar would be maybe nodding their head because we try too hard because we think we have to prove it to the world, and we're not being true to ourselves. So a long time ago, somebody told me, you know what, you're really impactful, you're really good at what you do. Just don't try too hard. Just be who you are, and things would come along. And that's one advice that I live by, which is why my brand is what I talk about, being authentic, because I would never separate that from myself. I am who I am, and I'm very aware of who I am, and I make sure that I stay normal, natural, organic, and true to myself.
Thank you. And I guess this kind of ties into my next question as well, which is, what would be your one piece of advice to internationally trained women professionals? In light of you mentioning that being true to who you are, a number of us, when we move into Canada, we feel like a part of ourselves have left us because it's in our other country. So any advice just for our women today?
Yeah. So first thing I would say that when you come to a different country, like, make sure you're like embracing the change. Absolutely open your arms and keep your eyes, senses open and see what the new world is like. Take your time to adapt, understand the difference. And you know what the difference is? It's just adaptation. It's just change management. It's a classic change management model where you accept, you adapt, you sort of absorb the change, and then you react. And so when you move so my advice would be, don't think by moving to a new country you have to change your identity and be a completely different person. It's just you are you, and you are who you are because of who you are. So when you move to a different country and come to Canada, for example, adapt the change, but stay your original authentic self. But at the same time, like, make sure in order to adapt, go hunt for opportunities, ask for help, see what else is out there, be open to ideas, open to change, and don't be rigid. If I've done something in a certain way for years, doesn't mean it's the same way I should be doing it in future. So be open to it. Let's go with the flow. Let's see what else is out there. And again, same thing with the job and the career. If you've done a certain job for years, when you come to a new country, the same job may not be available. So be open to trying new things. Learn from others. Also, stay confident. Stay who you are, because I'm pretty sure if you were successful in your own country, that was because of all the great things you've done. So don't let that confidence go down. Don't let your self-belief go down, because you've done it. You've done it in the past and you can do it again. And the other thing I would also say is, By you speaking different, looking different, the word difference itself is not negative. A lot of people come to me all the time, like, my accent is different. Most people have to ask me, are you from India, are you from UK? I've this all mixed up accent from all the countries that I've picked, but I'm proud of it. I am who I am. It's about the work. I give my best. I am best of the best in my field. And if I speak differently, if I look different, if I behave different, if I have a different background, has got nothing to do with my capability. So that's one advice that I would do say to women. Stay true to yourself, but at the same time, adapt to the new world. And don't let anyone pull you down or make you believe that you're any less, because you're not.
Wow, thank you for that, Kangsha. And I just think that it's so important for us to just embrace who we are. And when you come to Canada, those of you that are not here yet, Canada is such a diverse place, especially in Toronto. You go to any workplace and there are different people holding different positions. There's no set types of people in certain types of positions. You'll see men and women all leading and doing different things. So don't be afraid of who you are. That's definitely my advice as well.
Awesome.
Great. So, Kangsha, maybe you can just give us a little bit of key takeaways before we end the webinar.
Absolutely. And so here you see really something. I've just thrown a few takeaways, but if I have to really separate the takeaways, I'd say I would separate some key takeaways for women in particular. And when I say sit at the table, what I mean by that is treat yourself equal for others to do the same. If you're sitting at the table and you're not even sitting at the table, you're sitting behind, and men are taking the table, and you say, they don't treat me equal. Well, it's not fair, right? So be at the table, have a seat at the table, and treat yourself equal, and for the world to treat you equal. Then I say, put your hand up. Those are simple lines because they stick with me, and I'm sure they'll stick with you, which is, remember school, and a teacher is there teaching. They ask a question, you know the answer, but you don't raise your hand. Yeah. A teacher would not know that you know the answer, right? So what I mean by that is, even in the workplace, even in your real life, if there's anything going on and there's an opportunity, grab it with both hands. Go raise your hand and say, I'll do it. I'll try it. And be open to new opportunities, to new things that are coming your way. I mean, that's the whole epitome of my career. I've taken new opportunities as they came by, and I just grabbed them and I rode that horse with full swing, and it's only taken me in the right direction. So don't wait for things to come to you. Go after them is my motto here. Again, success and likability. What I mean by that is that's a really complicated bullet point in itself, because what happens usually is we say success and likability go hand in hand for men. Men can be both successful and they can be really likable. For women, and it's the bias that's created by our own gender. It's not men creating that gender. It's our own women who create. The moment a woman is successful, we stop liking them because we say, oh, she's I don't want to use the B word, but she's not that good. Why? Because she's successful. So how can you be successful and popular at the same time? And it's a really fine balance where you're doing the right things, people like you, so you're successful. But at the same time, it's how you do those things make you likable too. And it's easy that men get likable and successful together. For women, we face those biases where you can get successful but not likable, or likable but not successful. So make sure you find the right balance and the fine line and understand where you play with that. The other one I say is don't leave before you leave. So women tend to quit easy when they get frustrated or they're fed up. And so somebody's gone on mat leave, they come back, they have a baby, they are dealing with these complications in life, they're balancing work and household, and work is not treating them well, they get fed up and they leave. So what I mean by don't leave before you have to leave is life would throw complexities, people would treat you different, but you get married, you have kids, you start a family life. Don't put your foot off the gas pedal before you have to. Keep working. Keep doing what you need to do for your career, and don't let other priorities take place. Have a sponsor. I say this all the time. is make sure you have somebody who's sponsoring you, who's supporting you, someone who's successful in life, who believes in you, and is your mentor, is your coach, is your sponsor. The other one is seek and speak your truth. So be honest, be authentic, speak your mind, be different, because different is great, different is powerful. Resilience. Be relentless and be resilient. And what I mean by resilience in general is if somebody pulls you down and you fall flat on your face on the floor, get up, but get up with twice as force you have. Like, be strong. And don't wait for the world. Like, don't take the victim approach where world is telling you, oh, this happened to us. No, nothing happens to you. You bring it to yourself. So make sure you stand strong, you believe in yourself, and you fight what's coming at you. Face the adversity, get up and attack twice as hard as you can. And when I said, hey, these key takeaways are for women, what I say key takeaways for men, make sure you keep those biases in check, because it's very normal, very easy to get those biases in place. Oh, she's a woman, she has a family, she has kids, maybe she won't be as dedicated at work, maybe she won't be as ambitious. Bad assumption. So make sure you keep your biases in check, treat women equally and with respect. Make sure you call out bad behaviors from other men. I've actually seen personal examples in my life where I'm sitting in a meeting room, some men have not treated the other women equally or with respect, and other man has called it out. So be that man who's noticing if something's going wrong, is the person to call it out and say it's wrong. And also be advocates and supporters of women and give them the opportunities they deserve.
Wow, thank you, Akanksha, for all these takeaways, and you're very, very motivating for myself even, and all of our webinar participants as well. We're just getting a lot of really nice comments, just thanking you for this presentation as well. And I also just really like the way that, you're really truthful in kind of, what you're saying, and it's not just sugarcoating, that it's easy, but also encouraging us to not give up and to keep fighting, and also for our men as well, to keep partnering and also like supporting women as well. So thank you for that.